Oh, the horror of it all. We're talking vampires, werewolves, zombies, disembodied hands, lions in the living room, dragons in the basement, and some creepy kids. They're kooky, they're spooky. Yes, you guessed it, it's the Addams Family versus the Munsters. And if you think that pair-up is clichéd at this point, that'll stop us. I'm Retro Ed, and this is Do You Remember? Today we're diving face first into the supernatural fray as we pit those monsters known as Munsters against the Addamses. But before we do, give us a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next retro video. Now, for a little background, if the old Universal horror movies and the Donna Reed show had a baby, it would be the Munsters. Aw, how cute. And if a group of humans decided to go goth to the nth degree, you'd have the Addamses. Enough background. Round one are happy couples. No question that Herman and Lily Munster love each other, even though she often rolls her eyes at her husband's antics, and he's the typical befuddled sitcom husband, just trying to make his way through each day. You know, if your typical sitcom husband was 7 feet tall, green in color, and had a couple of spikes sticking out of his neck. Now turn your attention to Gomez and Morticia Addams. They have genuine sexual tension, at a time when televisions would have exploded from anyone saying those words. She speaks French, he goes wild. She calls him Boobala. He goes wild. They just sit there, he goes wild. Let's face it, Morticia could do pretty much anything, and Gomez goes wild. The winner? The Addams. There's something to be said for sexual tension. In fact, we just did. Round two, the inventors. It's Uncle Fester versus Grandpa. On the Addams Family, Uncle Fester, like everybody else on that show, is a bit of an eccentric. His inventing prowess is pretty limited, though he can shove a light bulb in his mouth, and we assume anywhere else, and have it brighten to life. He is also always experimenting with dynamite, and usually gets caught up in the explosions he creates. And in episode 40, he invents a formula for hair growing, which doesn't work as planned. Over on Mockingbird Lane, Grandpa is far busier, coming up with things that generally go awry. Marilyn can't sleep. Here's a sleeping potion which turns out to be the one used on Sleeping Beauty, meaning that she needs to be kissed by a prince to wake up. Little Eddie's upset at being a kid. Instead of aging him, Grandpa does something and gives Eddie a beard that can't be trimmed. Keep trying, guys. The winner, the Munsters. Round three, the theme songs. For anyone who thinks that the Addams Family song kicks off with the lyrics, "The Addams Family started when Uncle Fester farted," you'd be wrong. And if you're laughing, you're immature. We laugh at it all the time. In any case, the actual theme is brilliant, beginning with the cast snapping their fingers in beat. And as the lyrics unfold, we get an overall sense of the weirdness of the show. With the Munsters, the theme is a rocking instrumental and beautifully captures the whole surfing vibe of the time, as we get visual introductions to the characters and the cast. In other words, they're both great, and we've got our first tie. Round four, the kids. On the Munsters, there's Herman and Lily's son, Eddie Wolfgang Munster, who's half vampire and half werewolf. Half werewolf? Yo, Lily, what have you been up to when Herman's at work? Good kid, carries around a werewolf doll, just wants to fit in with the other kids, and is uber proud of his dad. With the Addams Family, there are two kids, Pugsley, a boy, and Wednesday, a girl. Pugsley is, what's the word? Weird. Just a strange kid. Wednesday, however, can be sweet, but has a really dark streak. And with her, you can sit back, nod your head, and go all Andy Griffith as you say, yep, she's going to make a fine serial killer someday. The winner? The Addams Family. Round five, oh so many pets. Both families love their fine-feathered, clawed, and fanged friends. Quite a collection on the Addams Family, with Aristotle the octopus, Kitty the lion, Wednesday's spider Homer, and Cleopatra, Morticia's meat-eating plant. The Munsters menagerie includes Grandpa's Bat Igor, Charlie the raven who lives in the cuckoo clock and says things like, "Nevermore," Kitty the black cat that roars like a lion, and Spot the dragon who lives under the steps leading to the upstairs. The winner? The Munsters. Come on, Spot is a fire-breathing dragon with a little Godzilla mixed in. How cool is that? Round six, how they came to be. The Munsters were all supernaturally created. Herman was built by Dr. Frankenstein. Grandpa's actually Dracula, king of the vampires. Lily is his undead daughter. And Eddie, for those who haven't been paying attention, is half vampire and half werewolf. Basically, they were born into these conditions. The Addams Family, on the other hand, have pretty much chosen to live the macabre lifestyle that they do. They're human, though they are surrounded by oddities like the disembodied hand known as Thing, and the ever-delightful, hair-covered, sunglass-wearing, gibberish-speaking Cousin It. The winner? The Addams Family. The Munsters try so hard to be a part of society despite their lineage that they somehow manage to take on a feeling of normalcy. But the Addams are just so weird because they choose to be so, and that makes them really creepy. Round 7, Double Trouble. TV shows love their main characters to have twins, and usually evil twins at that. Beating both Bewitched and I Dream a Genie to the punch were the Munsters and the Addams Family. On the Munsters, Herman gets not one but two twins. And yes, we know that makes them triplets. It's called a joke. The first is his brother, Charlie, a conman and liar who is as unlike Herman as you can get. The other is Johann, Herman's supposed cousin, who was actually an earlier creation of Dr. Frankenstein's before he perfected his experiments with Herman. On the Addams Family, her name is Ophelia Frump, and rather than being evil, she's actually much closer to a normal human. She's usually in a good mood, optimistic, and loves to cook regular food. At one time, she had been in an arranged marriage with Gomez, but she fell for Cousin Ed instead, allowing Gomez and Morticia to be together. Ah, fate, it's a beautiful thing. The winner, the Munsters, mostly because Johann gives Fred Gwynne the opportunity to offer up his portrayal of the classic Frankenstein monster, right down to his fear of fire. Round 8, the Misfits. One of these things is not like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong. On the Addams Family, it's the butler Lurch, who, by all accounts, is a zombie of sorts, hence the only actual supernatural being among the rest of the characters. On the Munsters, we've got Herman and Lily's niece, Marilyn, who is made to feel like one of the rest of the family, despite the fact that her looks, a perfectly normal, blonde-haired, attractive woman, are so horrific to them. You know, we need to point out, Marilyn's role here is like that episode of Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone, Beauty is in the Eyes of the Beholder, which has all those pig-faced people doing their best to help a pretty woman whose normal face is considered horrific too. See what we're getting at? Munsters, expect a lawsuit from the legal department of The Twilight Zone. The winner, the Addams Family. He may not be much of a conversationalist, but Lurch is just so awesome. You rang? You bet your butt we did. Round 9, their homes. Both 1313 Mockingbird Lane and 001 Cemetery Lane are mansions that have been designed to give the outside world the creeps, and they do. But the fun is when you go inside and check out the decorating touches of the respective families. The Munsters' phone is in a phone booth of sorts that's actually a coffin standing on its end. There's also a dungeon that includes Grandpa's lab and an electric chair, both of which look like they came out of a Universal horror classic. Then, of course, beneath the steps leading upstairs, there's some sort of home for Spot the Dragon. And adding the perfect decorating touch, Lily uses a vacuum cleaner that spits out spider webs. With the Addams, where do you start? There's a stuffed bear, a polar bear rug, a portrait of a giraffe in a tuxedo, a mounted swordfish with part of a human being hanging out of it, and a playroom with a spiked bed and portable torture chamber. You don't see that every day on TV. The winner? It's another tie. The production designers of both shows did an outstanding job, creating unique looks for the sets that were unlike anything else on television. Round 10, longevity. When it comes to reruns, both the Addams Family and the Munsters have never been off the air, a gift from one generation to the next. And for many years, both were pretty neck and neck in terms of live action and animated spin-offs. But then, the Addams Family really took off. The last version of the Munsters was the 2012 TV movie Mockingbird Lane, which was expected to go to series but didn't, and was the first version since 1988's The Munsters Today. But since 1988, the Addams Family has had both an animated and live-action TV series, 2 big-screen feature films, a TV movie, a Broadway musical, and a CG animated film with a sequel on the way. The winner? The Addams Family. How could it not be? In the end, the Addams Family is the macabre victor, but for the record, we still love the Munsters. That does it for now. I'm Retro Ed. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. And please, tell us who you want to see face off in the comments below.